In the latest Nixon tapes, there's an exchange in which then National Security Advisor Henry Kissinger tells Nixon, quote, "Jews being put into gas chambers in the Soviet Union, it is not an American concern, maybe a humanitarian concern." In response, Nixon was quoted as saying, "I know, we can't blow up the world because of it." What's your reaction to this?
Well, I have a dual reaction. I think what Kissinger said is horrendous, is offensive, is painful. But I also am not ready to judge him. The atmosphere in the Nixon White House was one of bigotry, prejudice, anti-Semitism, the intimidation of the anti-Semitism, the stories, the bigotry of here was the irony. Here is a President Nixon who came to the defense of Israel, who intervened, time and time again to protect Israel. He understood that Israel is part of America's national security interest, and yet he was bigoted against Jews. He was a bigot. He was an anti-Semite. And so when Kissinger, in that type of intimidating atmosphere, I'm not ready to judge. I'm sure, he wishes he hadn't said it. So the sad part of it is how this disease, how this stereotype, how this disease, I don't know how to say it, so permeates so many good people and goes all the way up to the top. And we're fighting it. Education is fighting it. Actually, our conversation hopefully will wake up some people, so next time they hear "Jew him down," somebody will get up and say, "That's not funny." When they hear a Jewish joke about how Jews are, love money, somebody will say, "Don't say it, it's not funny," because all it does is reinforce that stereotype of bigotry, of prejudice, and of anti-Semitism.
Abe, got to ask you one more thing about those tapes. They show Nixon made disparaging remarks not only about Jews, but blacks, Irish, and Italians. And yet, as Roger Stone, who worked for Nixon, points out, Nixon single-handedly saved Israel in wartime through the 1973 airlift, and Golda Meir once called Nixon the best friend Israel ever had. Nixon also promoted Jews like Dr. Henry Kissinger and economist Herb Stein to important positions, and he accepted advice from William Safire and Len Garment. So the question is, Abe, how do you reconcile what Nixon said versus what he did?
Well, he was an anti-Semite. He didn't like Jews. He didn't trust Jews. In fact, remember when the conversation in the most recent tapes was he didn't want any Jews involved in any of the Middle East policy. Nixon was a pragmatist realist. He saw the interest of America being challenged by communism. And Israel as a state was an aircraft carrier in the Mediterranean, which was democratic. We shared values, we shared history, etc. But you can be both. Unfortunately, you can be both. You can be a bigot, and you can hate, you can dislike Jews, be anti-Semitic, and yet act in a realpolitik way to support Israel. And you can have the reverse. You can have people who love Jews, but couldn't care less about Israel's survival. So, don't always look for consistency when it comes to bigotry. Bigotry is irrational. And what we're trying to do is say, hey, if you're a bigot, Israel is a Jewish state. Why would you save it? Well, he didn't like the Jews here. He liked the Jews there. Okay.
Abraham Foxman, very interesting comments as always, and thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Ashley. Good to be with you.
And again, the name of his book, Jews and Money, The Story of a Stereotype. It's available at Amazon.com and fine bookstores everywhere. Thank you for watching Newsmax TV.